Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for this webinar on how cannabis security training can protect your people, products, and profits. This webinar is presented by My Sapphire Training, part of Sapphire Risk Advisory Group. And our hosts today are Tony Gallo and Jeff Bartley. Next slide.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am one of your presenters today. My name is Jeff Bartley. I'm one of the senior consultants with Sapphire Risk Advisory Group. I oversee all of Sapphire's services that work with companies that are just getting ready to open on and throughout their operation. I started this back in 1991. I've been in the industry a long time. I've handled all types of high-risk businesses, and in my career, I personally have been responsible for over 10,000 employees being trained in safety and security. Next slide, please.
Hello, my name is Tony Gallo. I'm the managing partner for Sapphire Risk Advisory Group. Been in the retail security field for over 25 years, worked for companies such as Sears and Macy's, and also was the director of security for over 15 years for the largest pawn shop chain in the United States. In that time, I've trained over 10,000 employees on retail security when it comes to various components that would make the store safe and profitable. Next slide. Our company, Sapphire Risk Advisory Group, has been in existence for over 10 years, making us the oldest national security consultant company in the cannabis industry. In that time, we've worked with over 1,000 cannabis businesses in 37 states, including Canada. And during that time, we helped develop three things. We helped them with their getting their license, their application business, building out the security, their physical security, and then for today, talking mainly about how for them to stay employed and profitable in the cannabis industry by designing security training programs for dispensary employees. Next slide. So why do dispensaries need security training? Well, a couple of reasons for that. First of all, a lot of states actually mandate that there's a security training component and continuing education that's required for every employee in their state. You might want to check your state to see what that CE or continuing education requirements are. Another big thing we see is that a lot of times, boost the employees' morale. Think about this. You want your employees to be part of your team. You want to give them those tools that make them empowered to feel that, you not only feel that they're an employee, but you also want them to feel part of the group. And this is a tool that you can give your employee so to give them that empowerment, to make them feel that they're understanding what goes on in their store and that they have a responsibility. The other thing is a well-trained employee who understands what the security policy and procedures can actually reduce losses in the store. Our main goal is a prevention mentality and not an apprehension mentality. So we really want the employees to be able to identify any prevention measures that can reduce any of those losses in the store. Another aspect is it may reduce your insurance premiums. A lot of insurance companies want employees to be trained so that it prevents losses from occurring and obviously from premiums to be added or not. So you may want to check and actually see if you have well-trained employees, is it going to reduce their premiums? The other thing is liabilities. We deal with a lot of times with lawsuits that come in where the very first thing that's asked us is what kind of training did that employee have when this issue occurred or when, that prompted this lawsuit. That is a lot of times what you'll see. A lot of times the legal companies will be asking. And then the most important thing is, it's going to save you time and stress. You're going to have to do employee training, whether you utilize a training module like this or you're going to be doing it yourself. Could you spend that time more profitable by focusing on other aspects of the business and allowing the employees to take this training at their own leisure and not have to cram it into a short presentation? Next slide. So we'll take some of those components. As I said, meet state and required security training standards. Continuing education training is required in some states such as Missouri, Ohio, New Jersey, Nevada, Illinois. We start to see more and more states come online. This number will continue to grow. And whether your state's on this or not, you'll probably see these requirements occurring in the very near future. And as you can see, broken out is some of these requirements. Missouri does have an 8-hour minimum training for security, and then it goes down from there. New Jersey, an 8-hour training for all employees also. Next slide. So again, one of the aspects we talked about is that retaining employees and boosting that employees' morale. The training program is really there to help build their confidence in their job. Think about it. If you were going to take on a job and you just didn't know how to do your job, the stress that you have of not being given those tools and that you have to now learn by trial and error. A lot of employees that stay vested feel that there's value and that they stay with the company. The cannabis industry has over 100% turnover rate. So how do you keep these employees, and how do they feel valued, and how do they stay? Employees do have these training and opportunities and engagement do have that high retention, some as high as 34%. And then giving your employees that educational milestone, giving them a certificate that will be reduced at the end of these quizzes does increase that morale. And anything that can increase morale can increase employee retention. Next slide. So again, reducing that premium that we talked about, training that employee, something you should check with your insurance agency. What can reduce the premiums that you're paying by that training? Can that also help you if there was a liability? When you deal with a liability situation, they're going to ask for the employee training. They're going to ask for, what kind of education they had when it comes to this particular issue that you might be being sued for. Next slide. So again, stress and time. You're going to have to train your employees anyway. So is an organized training? Does everyone get the training? From a legal point of view, you don't want some people to have security training and others not have security training. That would expose you from that. You'd be better off not having any training. What is the training process? Is it something that, you could retrain these employees going forward? What's their education? Is the person doing the training, do they have that background? I am not educated on how to grow cannabis products, so you wouldn't want me to train you on the growing of the product. But from a security background, we have a vast knowledge. Our company has over 100 years of security knowledge throughout the organization. And then the key also is that documentation and record keeping. Again, if you are ever asked, you will need to produce when you did your training, what that training involved, a copy of that training program, and is there any re-education in the training program? So it's important to have all these aspects in place. Next slide. Jeff, I'm going to turn it over to you at this point to actually walk us through the actual training module.
Absolutely. That sounds great. And thank you, Tony. And once again, just to, reiterate, as partners with the cannabis industry, pretty much since its inception, the need for training in these cannabis locations was an opportunity that we identified pretty early. And this course developed over a period of time as all of us, at the team got together and sat down and tried to figure out what would be the best way to have a significant impact in improving the profitability of all of the companies that we help support throughout the industry. So that's how my Sapphire training was born. It's initially starting with 3 modules. Those 3 modules are available right now. It gets into loss prevention, which is just basic loss prevention pieces such as robberies, shoplifting, etc. There's a module for facility security that walks all employees through all of the different physical security pieces and premises management concepts that are in play at their location so that they have a clear understanding of how those integrate with their day-to-day behaviors and day-to-day job performance to help not only reduce a loss if a loss were to occur, but primarily prevent one from ever occurring. And then the last course currently available is our payment and identification verification that walks people through how to identify false currency, how to properly process cash, and how to identify potentially fraudulent credit card and ID transactions. So let's go into each one of those a little bit more depth. I will mention that we do have additional content coming. We've got multiple modules that we'll be rolling out, into the beginning of next year and beyond. But for right now, it's just these three topics, which we felt would have the most impact right away with all of the businesses in the industry. So Daniel, if we could move to the next slide, please. So we talked about loss prevention training, and this is basically designed to minimize theft, fraud, and any of the regular security risks that are happening within a dispensary. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is ensure that everyone goes home at night, that all of our customers are safe on the property, that all of our employees are safe on the property, and all of our property is safe on the property. And in that initial module, there are a number of topics, which includes, armed robbery, how to identify one, how to hopefully prevent one from ever occurring, and then most importantly, actions and behaviors that should be taken by employees during the event in order to ensure their safety and the safety of everyone else in the store. That module also goes into shoplifting and external theft, talks about some key indicators and things that should be paid attention to by behaviors of shoppers in the store, and then it even goes into how to potentially handle and address potential incidents inside the cannabis dispensary. That module also talks about internal theft and culture of honesty. One of the things that many employees talk about is they want to be able to trust not only who they work for, but who they work with. And in this module, it talks about all the different pieces and behaviors and actions and things that can be done to ensure that everybody is working and able to trust those employees that they work with. And then the last piece of the loss prevention module goes into just basic fraud prevention. It talks about a number of the common fraud programs that are out there right now, how they use those to try to violate local cannabis regulations, or how they use those to obtain, product that they haven't rightfully paid for. And then also gives the employee and equips the employee with some tools in order to prevent from ever being a victim. We could go to the next slide. The next module that we talked about was that facility security. And that's basically making sure that employees know how to protect company assets and to maintain an environment within the store that is mitigating any potential loss or risk that could occur. It goes into physical security, which includes all of the different physical pieces of the store to prevent people from accessing areas where they shouldn't. It talks about the concept of premises management, which is how a building can actually be physically designed by an architect to minimize or reduce the potential of crime on the property. And then last but not least, that module talks about the different security systems, how access controls works, how the network video recorders work, any of the alarm systems that are in the store, and how to maintain those physical security items throughout their shift and throughout their workday to ensure that they're always operational and functioning at optimal performance. We could go to the next slide. The last module currently available with my Sapphire training goes into that payment and ID verification piece. And that is a big piece of legal compliance, is making sure that we don't have any diversion, we don't have any underage purchases happening at the store, that the operations are being handled ethically and with integrity and are compliant with all of the state regulations. It's also designed to help employees understand the importance of managing cash. In a lot of these dispensaries, they have large quantities on hands, which make them a greater risk for robbery due to that increase in volume. And the module helps walk through, how to ensure that we are doing at the dispensary level everything that possibly can to prevent one from occurring. It also walks them through how to verify payments. It goes through and explains, how to identify counterfeit bills, both post and pre-2004. Steps that employees should take if they have a suspicious transaction occurring in order to ensure that they are preventing, a situation from escalating. The module also talks about how to identify fraudulent identification cards. It walks through the flag method and some of the other pieces that employees can use to ensure that the information that they're being provided by the customer is legitimate and accurate. And then last but not least, it also talks about credit card fraud and how to verify employees to ensure that they are the correct age to make purchases. If we can go to the next slide. So some of the key benefits of my Sapphire training, there is right now a demo course that's absolutely free that employees can take, or excuse me, that individuals can take in order to get a feel for how the system works, how the modules run, how the quizzes interact with the module to ensure understanding of the core concept material in the section that was presented. And what's great about my Sapphire training is it's completely doable at your own pace. Each module is broken up into sections, and each section then has smaller pieces. And at the end of each piece is a quiz that ensures that they retain that information. And then at the end of the module as a whole, there is a grand question, a grand quest test that makes sure that employees can retain that information. All questions and answers are randomized, so everybody's looking at different questions with different answers, which is a great piece and certainly a benefit of the My Sapphire training. But as additional courses are added, you will see more and more modules start to appear on the homepage of My Sapphire training. And the reason that that's important is because employees can learn at their own pace. If they don't have time to sit down and complete an entire module and they just want to do a single section, they can absolutely do that. It's also mobile friendly, so they can do it on their phone, on a tablet, or anywhere that they have internet access. Additionally, my Sapphire training can be customized. We can make it match your brand. If you want your company's logo and name to appear at the top or inside all of the training material, that's a piece that can be done as well. And then last but not least is that professional certification, being able to physically hold something tactile that says not only did I complete my training, but in the event of a liability issue or a litigation issue, employees can prove that, hey, I took all of the necessary steps that were required in order to ensure that I knew how to properly handle the situation at hand. Next slide, please. And here I'm going to turn it back over to Catherine for a little bit. I believe that we've had some questions and whatnot pop up throughout our presentation today. So Catherine, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Jeff and Tony. That was great. We have had a couple questions come in while you guys have been talking. That first one that came in is, within how many days of hire should employees be trained, and how often should I retrain?
So those are some great questions, and most states have a specific requirement in their regulation that talks about when employees need to be trained. Our recommendation is in that 30 to 45 day window. You might be able to stretch it out as far as 60, but definitely within the first 30 to 45 days, you want to have that training. From a refresher standpoint, we recommend annual refresher training. And the reason for that is we're really trying to build sort of a mental muscle memory. Nobody knows how they're going to react when they're faced with a stressful situation or a situation that causes extreme anxiety. And only by repetition and reinforcing the learning that an employee receives, year in and year out, does it increase their ability to instinctively and instantly know what to do when faced with a difficult situation.
Great answer.
Thank you,
Next question that came in. How does my Sapphire training compare to competitors?
So that's a great question, and there are a number of other learning platforms out there. Our information was developed through field level experience. We've been out in these cannabis dispensaries. We've been out in these cannabis cultivation centers, and we've actually been involved in the nuts and bolts and the pain points that our clients have suffered from. So each of us have been in this industry, for decades, and we took all of those different pieces and put it together to create the most thorough safety and security training available for the cannabis industry today. And that's what separates us from a lot of the other cookie cutter training programs that are out there, is the information that we provide, much more detailed, much more exact, and designed specifically for those operating in a high-risk space such as cannabis.
Thank you. Next question we have, does My Sapphire Training offer in-person training?
Yeah, what a great question. I mean, absolutely. We're willing to come out and train anywhere. The great thing about My Sapphire Training is even if, in person isn't available or online isn't, you can still take it from your phone. You can take it from any other mobile device. But if a client or a company wanted us to come out and conduct the training in person, we absolutely would be willing to do that. Yeah, certainly.
Great. And last question we had come in, will there be any additional courses?
Yeah, I think our goal is that we're going to expand this library to cover all security needs for the industry. Obviously, starting off with the one that we see the most exposure, which is the dispensary or retail part of the business, but then growing into other aspects, the cultivation, grow, processing, manufacturing. As you see here on the screen, there's a short test your knowledge. It's free if you want to take a quick quiz on your knowledge of security. I believe there's 7 questions that'll walk you through it, and you can take it at your leisure, and obviously a photo of the certification. But I think as the training modules grow, a lot of that input's going to come from the industry itself, learning, is there more focus on employee honesty, culture of honesty? Is there more focus when it comes to break-ins, or more focus when it comes to shoplifting or cash management and all of that? So, our goal is that there'll be a library of courses of training, and with that, an employee can then go through these modules and these courses, and the owners don't have to worry about whether they've had the adequate training or not. So, yes.
Great to hear. Well, that was all the questions I had. Jeff and Tony, thank you both for being on, and thanks for everybody who joined. If you have any additional questions, please do reach out. Our website is listed on the screen, and we are also available to take your calls as needed. Thank you all for joining, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you
Bye.
all.